Hey Authority Hackers, welcome to this week's episode. This is the time of the month where we go over all the news that happened in the industry, and a lot of very interesting things happened this month. We are going to be talking about Ahrefs' new free tier. Are they doing this to collect your data? Should you connect your Webmaster's console? We're going to have all these debates with Mark, and we're also going to be talking about a very important change to Featured Snippets and how you can use it to actually get more traffic to your site. And finally, we'll also talk about whether shared hosting is costing you rankings in Google. A new case study came out and it's very interesting, and John Mueller reacted. So we're going to be talking about this and a few more things. So let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Authority Hacker Podcast. This is the time of the month where we actually go over kind of like the stories that happen in the industry that are relevant for authority site owners, and kind of like give our take on it. I know that people like our opinions or like some extra tactics we can add on stuff, etc. But my opinion is not the best. The best one is actually Mark's opinion. But before that, we're going to ask him how it's going. So how's it going, Mark?
I don't have a funny answer this week. Let's just move on. I'm sorry. I'll come up with something better next week.
Yeah, this week is a plain week, both for the background and your answers. But anyway, we're going to get started with the first story, which is actually about featured snippets. A lot of affiliates have noticed on Facebook group that Google is actually reducing the amount of featured snippets they're using. So instead of essentially having some content on top of the SERP, they're kind of going back to the old format of like not exactly 10 blue links, but you get the idea of like having a link on top that looks exactly the same as the other ones. But what's quite interesting is that the actual number one result is still the same number one result as the person who had the featured snippet when they've done that change. Which, the featured snippet was not always the number one organic. That's why we were saying, like, as long as you're in top 5, 6, you can compete against big sites and take the featured snippet. So it seems like they kept the logic of like who shows like number one from the featured snippet, but they actually don't take the data from the page and it just show the link of the page as a normal result instead of an actual featured snippet. I think that's a really good news.
Really silly. Like, why would they do that? I can't think of a reason.
Yeah,
so it almost feels like a mistake,
Yeah, I checked a lot of our queries, and it happened too, actually. Like a lot of queries where there were featured snippets, and like list posts, etc. And Google would just take the top 10 and just show that as a featured snippet. Now we're just showing as an organic result. We're still, you check the rank tracker, you don't see any difference, basically. Which is why I think a lot of people might have missed that, because unless you actually open the SERP, you don't see it. But it's as if the number one result for SERPs that used to have a featured snippet essentially has its own mini algorithm now, following what featured snippet used to be, but it doesn't do it in terms of like the user who actually searches. So don't ask me why it doesn't scroll to the page to the point where they used to scroll as well, etc. But overall, essentially there's less featured snippets, and apparently Mozcast has also confirmed that. So it's like, on a larger scale, it has been noticed as well that there are less featured snippets. People speculate that it's about the antitrust things and like people Google being accused of stealing content, etc. Well, that's Twitter speculation. So just take that for what it's worth.
I really feel like
it might be a bug.
Yeah, I really feel like we haven't seen the end of this one after August's debacle with the failed algorithm update.
Yeah,
there was a mistake. Maybe this is another part of that mistake. I don't know.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. So it's as if the featured snippet is still here, they just don't display it, basically. And but they still put the number one as a featured snippet. So, I mean, if it stays, it's great for publishers because, one of the plague of the last few years was zero-click searches. So essentially people searching, getting the answer in a featured snippet and not clicking on the results. So it's kind of like quite amazing for small publishers now because you still get the logic of featured snippets where you can snag the number one from the same logic. But at the same time, you still get the traffic. However, you can't reverse engineer as much because you don't see what the featured snippet is,
It's so silly.
It's weird.
SEO is not about, gaming the algorithm. It's about gaming it and then gaming this fake featured snippet, non-existent secondary algorithm to get it, even though it's not displayed. And so you have to it's crazy. Yeah.
It makes no sense, but that's
that's Google for you,
That's 2020. That's just like they were like, let's just throw a little bit more chaos into the world. So they did. I mean, honestly, like there was no official comment about this either. There was nothing. It's just something people have noticed. I have noticed that on a lot of queries that used to have featured snippets for us. I haven't I tried to look for trends in traffic to see if we get more traffic. I only checked a few pages.
When you say Google's removing some featured snippets, can you quantify that?
No. It's there was I saw a tweet with a Mozcast graph that it went down quite a bit from that graph. I don't have it right now.
20%, 50%, 80%?
I don't know if the scale of the graph that I saw is actually linear, so it's that would be stupid to say that number. If the scale is linear, then it was around 30%, but I don't know if it's linear,
Okay. So what we're saying is potentially positive change from this, but almost certainly based on what we've seen, there will be further updates to this in some way.
Yeah, I feel like they should remove the featured snippet logic if they remove the featured snippets. Yeah. But right now it's kind of interesting because it's a big opportunity for small sites because you can essentially still play with the on page to get number one spot. The number one spot is much more determined by on page than the other spots because the other spots are much more link based. But then number one spot, you can actually snag it from number 5 just with on page because it's still the featured snippet stuff. Take advantage of this, I guess, while it's lasting. But it's interesting. So I would, to find the queries where you can do that, I would probably check tools that did not update their cache or don't update their cache very often. So I'm thinking about Ahrefs here, actually. The cache is usually user updated, so you need to press the refresh button on Ahrefs to refresh the subs. And if the sub hasn't been refreshed, then you can find the queries that used to have featured snippets but might not have them now, and then try to essentially do this on-page tricking, So yeah, I guess that is the first news. Any final comment of madness on this, or?
No, just I'm sure we'll have an update for you next month on how this has changed again.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, that's the point of these news podcasts, right? I wouldn't cover that in a normal podcast because I'm it's probably gonna expire, but still interesting to see. All right, let's jump on the next thing.
Ahrefs have launched Ahrefs Webmaster Tools, which is a free service giving you limited access to Site Explorer and the Ahrefs Site Audit tool for your own site or sites only. So it's still very, very limited. It's not going to replace your paid subscription. You can't do full keyword research with it. You can't do outreach link building in most cases, though there are a few types of link building you can do if it's specifically related to your own site or dropped links or people know following your links, things like that you might be able to pick up, and anything from the audit tool as well. I haven't really used the audit tool much. Have you? What does it do?
It's pretty good. Yeah. It's basically Screaming Frog. It's Screaming Frog as a software as a service, basically. So it's it will find, broken link, broken images, too slow pages, too long title tags, missing meta descriptions, etc. So it's essentially, I think they do 5,000 pages in that tool, in the Webmasters tool. So it's a pretty good version of Screaming Frog for free. I think Screaming Frog is gonna hurt from this.
And it's that runs weekly, is it?
Automatically, and they give you a score basically. They give you a score between 0 and 100. And then you can see if you did site modification to your site and your health score drops, then you can go and check that, etc. It's pretty good. I like it. It feels very different from the other Ahrefs tools. It's definitely built by different teams inside Ahrefs. Mm-hmm. But you can replace, if you have the lowest level Screaming Frog subscription, then you can pretty much replace it with that. Except it's not as convenient for exporting to Excel or big sites will still want Screaming Frog probably, but for the basic audits, it's going to be quite okay actually.
So as we mentioned, this is absolutely free. Now Ahrefs is a very expensive premium tool, which is totally worthwhile if you're serious about SEO. But I appreciate that a lot of people, especially if you're just getting started, not going to be forking out $199 a month for the standard plan. So this is a good kind of way to get started with it, I guess. I think the original intention from this, and we'll get on to the data issues and the data debate in just a sec, but the original intention of them launching this was as a lead gen tool. So loads of people start using their ecosystem, start putting their sites in, see what it can offer, and then think, wouldn't it be cool if I could get all this data for everyone else's site as well? And then decide to subscribe and go for one of the premium
I mean,
plans.
if you think about it, the lowest plan, it's $99. And we tell people to buy it in our courses. Like when you go in the authority side system, for example, like we say, well, you kind of need Ahrefs for this. We're going to do all the tutorials with Ahrefs because we think it's the best source of data, and $99 we don't think is a high price for making the right decisions.
Per month, $99 is.
Yeah, well, like to do the research, you can probably do it in 1 month. That's why I'm saying that. But like it's still people push back, right? People struggle with that $99 price, and it's quite difficult. And for the longest time, there was a lot of lobbying for Ahrefs to do a cheaper plan, etc. And the thing is, like, once people have used Ahrefs for a bit, then they are a lot less reluctant to paying, and they understand why it costs this price. But if they've never, I mean, they had a trial, but 7 days is often not enough to really like feel the tool or even understand. I think it's quite overwhelming maybe the first few days you use it. So it was an opportunity for them to get people to use their tool, essentially to be the ultimate lead magnet, lead generator thing that they can put call to actions on their blog, etc. That gets a lot of traffic and convert that traffic, which they're not very good at converting their blog traffic. So I think they'll be less reluctant to push a free product than to push a paid offer on their blog.
So this was very well received by a lot of people in the community because over 10,000 people actually signed up for this on day one, which is pretty impressive. I don't know how many users they have in total, but that's a pretty good chunk of people that may pay for the tool in future. Now, there was some controversy with this because at the same time as they added this, they added another way of verifying your site. So to get Ahrefs Webmaster tools, you need to confirm to Ahrefs, to prove to Ahrefs that you own this website. So there are 4 ways of doing that. You can add a DNS record, you can add an HTML file, or you can add an HTML tag to your website. The new one, which is a controversial one, is you can connect your Google Search Console to Ahrefs. I haven't actually done that, but I believe if you're already logged in, it's probably the easiest and fastest way of all those to actually connect it. It's like a Facebook OAuth style thing, I believe.
Same thing.
And this has raised some controversy, understandably, because people are like, well, if I'm giving you all of my accurate data from my GSC, are you just going to like straight up display this? Are you going to show everyone else who uses Ahrefs how much traffic exactly all my pages get, how much traffic my site gets, all and any other kind of data that they can pull in there? How is that going to be used? And to be fair, that's a legitimate concern, and I don't think Ahrefs did the best job of getting ahead of those questions when it first came out, and there were quite a few people who were somewhat concerned with that kind of thing. What we've learned since then, and it's still not crystal clear, I think part of the reason for that is because they're not actually using any of the GSC data at the moment, so they themselves don't know exactly how it's being used. They're not even pulling the data. They have potentially the option to in the future, and they plan to do so. I would add to this as well that Ahrefs, like most other keyword tools, acquires data from lots of different sources. So they buy data from other providers. And I believe some of that also includes GSC data from sites. I don't know exactly how it works or where they get that from, but that's quite a common practice within this kind of industry, I believe.
Yeah, it's free plugins, it's free Chrome extensions, it's all this stuff. Like, nothing's free, right? Yeah. So if it's like I don't know if they do it, but like a lot of like SEO plugins, for example, offer you to connect GSC, right? And like I'm thinking of a plugin like Rank Math that essentially offers. I don't know if they do it. I'm gonna be very clear here. I'm just
This is actually like as theoretical as Gil ever gets. Like he's just making this up. He's using them as an example.
No, I'm just saying like as a business model, it would make sense that a plugin like Rank Master essentially offers for free what Yoast makes you pay for. It's like they're either trying to get market share so they can actually finally release their premium product, which has been potentially in the work for years, or they are harvesting data not just through Google Search Console, but like, they could Facebook pixel people and then sell that pixel data to, Elementor, for example. And Elementor displays their advertising to the people who use Rank Math because they have a direct integration and they can sell the premium version. So it's like, it can also be a business model based on data. I don't know, but like all I'm saying is that there's probably some tools that do that and resell their data to Ahrefs. And what is interesting to me is like people, obviously when Ahrefs collects your data and then just puts it in the tool, it's quite obvious what they would be doing. But I'm pretty sure a lot of that happens indirectly through other tools, through other things, other resources people use and connect their GSC to, and nobody cares.
But that's the thing. I don't think, and certainly from what Ahrefs have said, they're not just taking people's site data, traffic data, and just putting that so everyone can see it. That's not the approach.
I don't think that's the plan.
What it is instead is they're using all their different sources of data to train their internal algorithms. That by having GSC data, they essentially have the result data, what they need to calculate how much traffic each page gets.
Like an equation.
From a simplistic perspective, you may think, oh well, that's really straightforward. I shouldn't give them any of my data because even if they train an algorithm, it's just going to pull the exact result. But it's actually quite a bit more complex than that to calculate, to train such an algorithm, because we think of it in terms of, well, maybe if my site's ranking number 1 for this month and I get X traffic, it would automatically know that. But there's all sorts of variables here. Like you mentioned featured snippets at the start. Well, if they disappeared for half of September, then that's going to skew the data for like how many people click in each position significantly. If you drop rankings halfway through the month and someone else overtakes you, and then that someone ends up rewriting their title tags, and that increases the CTR of whoever's number 1, it's going to change it. So like they have data scientists who know far more stuff about this than I could possibly even theorize doing this. What we know right now is that they are going to store search queries, impressions, clicks, average position, and time frame. And then they're going to mix or blend this data with everything they know about your site, from clickstream sources they use, and any other source of scraping, I guess, any other source of data they have, to improve the accuracy of the tool. And we know since what was the antivirus tool that got
Jumpshot.
Back earlier this year, which provided a lot of data to Ahrefs and other keyword tools as well. Really a lot. That they use to do things like estimate traffic. So there's been a degradation in accuracy throughout this year on those kind of things. So they're looking to get that back to where it was before, if not improve it slightly. There seems to be sort of like two schools here. I know quite a few people who have sites, and 1 year ago the Ahrefs traffic data was almost spot on to what it actually was, and I know we've had sites where it's actually quite a bit off by several orders of magnitude. Even before that, there was accuracy issues. What they've done actually is they've removed the Jumpshot data even from the historical data. So they've actually changed all the numbers of past data, because what they did at some point is they removed it, and it was a big gap or something, like the traffic curve was completely off because they removed it. So what they did now is they removed it also for, even if you check for 2 years ago, now there's no more Jumpshot data in that as well. So that the curve looks the same as you like. Otherwise it's like, let's say they had like 10 times more data from Jumpshot, then you would see like a lot of traffic before, and then they don't get as much keyword data now, it would just drop, and like you would see a curve that drops when it's not the case. It's just that if you remove Jumpshots from the past, then it would be actually just a straight line, So what they've done is they've harmonized that because people freaked out for the traffic curves. So they actually right now it's already like they already smooth the curves, etc. Like it's the kind of stuff that like people don't think about running an SEO tool. But every time they I'm telling you, they probably curve the DR as well and all these curves so that the users kind of like make sense out of it, but it's not necessarily the actual truth,
And it's one of these things as well where they had to smoothen the traffic curve. So already the data you're looking at, even historical now, does not show the Jumpshot data, actually. From my understanding, like Tim will correct me on Twitter if I'm wrong anyway. Yeah.
So all that is to say that there are some pretty complex calculations possibly happening or almost certainly happening in future, and connecting your GSC will help them make better calculations. How much better those calculations are at a specific level, specific to your site, your keywords, your pages, is still somewhat unknown. It will impact it in some way, but what I'm taking away from this is that they are looking at this at a much bigger level than your affiliate site. They're the second biggest crawler in the world. They have multiple data scientists working for them. Really, a lot of things to handle here to try and calculate it. So, from like a game theory perspective, if I connect my GSC or if I don't, those are the two choices for me. I can't really impact what everyone else does in the world, and if everyone else, or even like some people are connecting it, maybe I don't know, most of the rest are just using one of the other 3 verification methods, which is an option as well. Then I think their algorithm is going to be good enough to like figure out more or less what I'm getting in traffic and all that anyway. So it's not going to make too much of a difference whether I do it or not. Now, if 10,000 people or 100,000 people decided not to, then maybe that will make a big difference. But I think at an individual level, what you choose to do here is not going to move the needle significantly. There are maybe 1 or 2 scenarios when I think it could be problematic. I'm thinking to one of our sites specifically. It has a few keywords which Ahrefs say get like no traffic or almost no traffic, but they actually get quite a bit of traffic. So the metrics are off significantly there. And it seems like our competitors in that niche don't actually target those keywords. But maybe that's one of the reasons why, because they don't think it has much traffic, and they don't see it in the keyword tool. So maybe we'll be helping to inform them a little bit there. Again, that's just sort of theoretical, though. I don't know.
It's like it would annoy. Like the thing is, like if you had a site that's like that, you have articles that like Ahrefs is like 50% right on your articles, and the other 50% they don't really get it. Like, would you feed that data to Ahrefs if that site's making good money?
Well, that's the question. From a game theory perspective, probably no. But as I said, I think they'll probably get that data anyway, eventually, based on everything they have.
Yeah, but like on an inaccurate way. Like it's not as accurate if they don't see the GSC data of someone that ranks for that query. And if no SEO is targeting that query, then essentially they're not gonna get the data.
Sure.
So it's like.
But what I mean is like they may actually pick it up through other sources anyway. So. Or their general algorithm is good enough that it makes a more accurate assumption. Anyway, so what difference is it going to make? Anyway, if you're not worried.
But the thing is, well, you don't need it. You don't need it to use the free tool anyway. You can just do a DNS record or something. And it's like, that's what I would do at this point. I mean, obviously they want that data because at some point it's going to help them make a better tool.
I did actually ask them, and they said they're hoping to offer more features for people who connect GSC in future, such as like GSC itself doesn't display your data, your information to you in a very like useful way sometimes. So they want to maybe improve that. So, there's clearly a data play at work here, but that's not the sole, reason. I don't think they're deliberately being sneaky about it. I do think they could have communicated things maybe a little bit better initially.
Typical Ahrefs.
Yeah. But
whenever they change their plans or anything, there's just a riot,
But it's a free tool. It's useful, and if you already have an Ahrefs subscription, if you connect with any of the methods, then you obviously have access to it anyway. But you get extra credits, like per project credit, I think they're calling them. So if you're on especially the light plan, that might be beneficial. I think the light plan as well, it also comes with. If you connect your site, you see like the top 100 keywords your site ranks for, or something like that instead of the top.
No, that you see the top 100 positions. Yeah, I'm not. We have a bigger plan, so I'm not sure what you see on the smaller plan actually. But
there was something that's 20 and it's now 100 on the light plan.
I think it's the it's not the number of keywords, it's like the position. So it's like if you're in top 20, you see your rankings, and if you're not, you don't see it. Now you see up to top 100, I think. Okay, because that was pretty heavy news, I have like a light short one here, which is if you have watched our episode on analyzing affiliate sites, which has been really popular. Actually, if you've missed it out, you should go check it out. People have loved it. We actually looked at a site called supercomfysleep.com. And that site was weird because they get like an absolute buttload of traffic, and it's one of the shittiest affiliate sites you're gonna come across. Essentially, sorry for the author.
It's not that bad.
Well, for the level of traffic they have, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like if you look at size against what the site is, it's like and so we kind of like busted them for like having a one-liner about page during that review of their site. Like there was like Mark read the about page in like 10 seconds on the podcast, and then after we published that podcast 2 days later, they have a full-fledged about page with now 4 beautiful stock photos that tell us that this is the editorial team now. So it looks like we have powerful. The Sleep Mafia is watching us. And so, yeah, that was interesting. That was pretty fun for those people who actually watch this podcast. Nothing special about it, just a little funny story. You can again take the next one. That's my lazy way of like not doing a full story, by the way.
All right, thanks for that, Gal. So in actual news, Income School posted a video on their YouTube channel this month where it was actually a really well produced video. I like that one a lot.
They do good videos.
Basically,
actually. We need to catch up.
If you don't remember, back in I think it was January of this year, Income School, who they're somewhat similar to Authority Hacker in the way that they have like a course and training, but they also
it's the American version,
They have a portfolio of
like
websites as well. They have a portfolio of websites as well, and they actually sold all of their websites, all of their portfolio in January this year, and they were supposed to have a call with the owner of one of them. But then one of their employees actually secretly got the owner to come out and meet them face to face, and it was all kind of dramatic and kind of funny. It's a cool video, but what we actually learned from it was some of the numbers, and they revealed the site, which is outdoortroop.com. And in January, it was making $1,500 a month, 83,000 page views a month. And in September, this month, it's doing 6,000 a month and 240K page views. And that's just with adding 3 to 5 articles a week since then. I don't think it's super duper site in terms of optimization, and there's a lot more that could potentially be done. But what I think this really highlights well is focus versus portfolio, right? When we first got into doing this, we were like, oh, let's build 100 websites and manage them all, and we'll be this big portfolio company and stuff. And like, honestly, managing 100 websites right now sounds like my idea of hell, to be honest. There's an Income School who are, you can say what you will about their views on link building or keyword research or whatever, but they walk the walk. They've built sites that make decent money and stuff, and they're one of the few people out there that consistently put that out there and put the sites out, reveal the sites, prove it time and time again. So they know what they are doing.
Yeah, what I like is they actually monetize with Ahrefs as well, so it's pretty simple monetization, etc. But I agree, like, what we really struggle, like, we're starting a new site now, for example, like a site that's, I can't really tell the niche at this point, but it's a consumer niche. And just getting the editorial team on point, like we're hiring specialists and like teaching them, etc., is a ton of work. And onboarding staff properly when we actually build expert teams is something that takes the effort or even multiple people to check their work, to give them feedback, etc. And so working on like many sites at once, I think you essentially drop some of that quality. So it depends what your goal is, right? Do you want to publish a lot of average sites, or do you want to do a few great sites? I think our personality is more like we really want to like do better and better. And I think over the last few years, we've done quite good at, as I said, at building like specialist teams, etc. That's not for Google EAT, to be honest. I don't really believe it matters that much. I believe it's more of a matter of like how we like to do things and etc. Like, You can see even the podcast production. We upgraded it with like proper microphones and cameras and everything, and try to always upgrade the quality, add some B-roll, add all this, etc. And so I would, I think that shows that when you take part of a portfolio and you give it to one person and they focus on this 100% is their project, they care as much as the owner because they are the new owners, then there's big wins to be made. And it probably shows that from the income school guys, they're great, but because they had all these sites at once, I can imagine how difficult it must be to do an excellent job at all of them. Whereas like if one person just takes one and really focuses on that, they've been able, and it wasn't just this site, they actually reviewed like 4 or 5 sites at the end of the video. Pretty much every single site grew, like doubled in size, in revenue or something like this. So I mean, congrats to them, but congrats also to the people who took them over.
You can see from the people who purchased the sites is, and no offense intended to them, but they're not like super duper master experts, SEO people. They're just like normal people. Most of them have other jobs or other businesses or whatever. So just by having that person or that group of people like focus on the website, they've like quadrupled the revenue in 8 months.
Yep.
And that's a website of a company of a group of people who income school who, as I said, know what they're doing and are pretty good at SEO. Again, that's another debate entirely for some people, but just goes to show you how important or how powerful focus can be. So that's the main takeaway from this section.
I think it also shows how powerful AdThrive and advertising monetization is. So it's like we talked about this with Jon Dykstra when I made his interview. I know these guys also use a lot of AdThrive and they like it, and for good reasons. To be honest, it's my favorite ad network as well. So completely agree with them. And it's really powerful because then you just have to focus on traffic. And if you run this kind of like, for them, the way they pick keywords is they tend to pick lower competition keywords and just write a lot of content and not really look at link building. But like traffic does expand if you do that, as we talked about with Jon Dykstra. And so like following that simple model allows them to grow without having to worry about complex monetization, A/B testing, is the affiliate product in stock, etc. And so I do believe that over time, I feel it's still great, but a lot of people are going to really mix both because that is like there's a big opportunity because of how easy it is to monetize with just ads, and it removes a lot of complexity from the business, which allows you to focus on just creating a lot of content and growing your traffic, etc., without really worrying about how you make money from that traffic. But overall, it was a really good video. Recommend it to people. Anyway, I checked the YouTube analytics. You guys love Income School from what I see. So check it out if you haven't checked it out yet. I'm gonna take the next story. It's actually a proper one this time. So you can take a 5-minute break. I'm gonna talk about shared hosting. And there was a study from a company called Reboot Online that essentially picked an imaginary query and built 10 sites. 5 of them were on Amazon Web Servers on their own IP without anyone on there. And 5 of these other sites that were targeting this query were on, shitty shared hosting with bad neighborhood, basically, with like hacking and porn sites, etc., sharing the same IP. And what they found over time, and there's we're going to put the link in the description. You can go and read it. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but essentially the end conclusion was that sites that are on bad neighborhoods, for pretty much all of them except one, ended below the sites that were on their own IP on an Amazon web server. And there's a graph for that. There's been a lot of debates on Twitter, etc. And it's quite interesting because it's something that's been talked about for a long time in SEO, but never really proven, tested, etc. And actually, John Mueller picked that up and said that, first of all, he said, studies on made-up keywords are irrelevant and don't translate in real life for real queries. And he also said that he doesn't know of any part of the algorithm that would penalize you for having for being in a bad neighborhood. And he took the example of Blogger, which is Google's, blogging service that's pretty shit. But there's a lot of shit sites on it, but a few of these sites are actually run properly by some of the owners. Actually, Google runs some blogs on Blogger. And these sites, he says, just rank just fine, so it's really not a problem of sharing the same IP and infrastructure, etc. So, it's the eternal debate, right? Do you believe John Mueller or do you believe the field test? And one thing that was quite interesting to me is what he said about doing tests on made-up queries, because we know people like Carl Roof, for example, who do a lot of these kind of tests. And actually, when they kind of like went after him, they de-indexed all his test sites that were going after made-up queries. So I'm kind of curious on, was it just like because essentially they wanted to punish him, or was it because it actually is helpful? I don't know. If you didn't believe it worked, then why do you de-index the work that spreads misinformation on how to trick Google? So essentially that was an interesting one. Now, I think the final question to this is, what do you do with your hosting? Like, for example, we recommend SiteGround on your site system, which is shared hosting. It's not the cheapest, so it's like I wouldn't expect like the worst sites on it. There's definitely some questionable sites on SiteGround as well. Like, no question that you might end up on an IP with some questionable sites. So these kind of tests, it might be a factor, but the question is how much of a factor is it? And when you have a single variable test, it doesn't tell you how important the factor is, right? Because you essentially have the exact same site with one difference. And so one is going to rank higher, but it might be a 0.00001% factor that really doesn't affect your success or not. And we have a lot of students that are on SiteGround, and these people don't really have any problem with ranking, and we have a lot of success stories on SiteGround, etc. So do you need to leave your shared hosting? I don't think so. Is it maybe a 0.001% factor? Maybe, and then that would essentially make everyone happy. If you don't want to use shared hosting anymore following this story, actually WP Crafter released a video on these Vultr performance servers on Cloudways. Essentially, these are like not too expensive. I think the cheapest one is $13 per month, which is not that crazy for like dedicated hosting. And these are really fast dedicated servers. And he shows you step by step how to set that up and how he does his speed setup, etc. So I would highly recommend you go check that out. We also put the URL in the description so you can go and check that out. And essentially that's the story. Any comments? Are you gonna change hosting or anything like this?
No, I think that's somewhat of a non-story in the sense that what did they have? Five examples?
10. Five.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's not really. I know it's very difficult to do any kind of scientific data study accurately when SEO is concerned, but it just screams of, oh, let's do a test and like let's monitor a few things, and then whatever comes up, that's the definitive conclusion that we'll present it that way. And there are
you don't have to do that. You just let the community do that for you.
There are marketing.
Like that's how you do case studies.
They're a marketing agency, so the purpose of them creating this content was not to figure it out, I think, but more to get attention to themselves and get links and get leads, which mission accomplished. So it's good from that perspective. Yeah. Shared hosting is one of these things. Free, it's like it's cheaper, right? And it makes sense to start that way. I do see people with pretty large sites, making quite a lot of money, who are still on like really cheap shared hosting packages, and they're like complaining about the customer service not being perfect and stuff. And there is a point for sure when your site starts to grow and make money and have a lot of traffic that you need to move off of that and expand your hosting capability significantly. But is it because of this reason? I don't think so.
No, I agree. I think it's not a reason to change, and I think it's like if you're starting and you're on a budget, like it's not a reason to increase your budget. There's other things you can spend on that will make more of a difference. So yeah, I would say keep going. It might be a tiny factor, as many things are, but even if it is, it's not what will make you either successful or failing. It's like you can just spend that resource somewhere else, and will have a deeper impact on whether you succeed or fail.
It reminds me of an interesting story. So one of our mutual friends had a web design agency create a personal branded website for his coaching business. And they did some really good things, but like the way they built it initially was terrible. Like the tech was really slow, and the website was almost unusable. It was so slow. And when he questioned it, they were like, "Oh, well, you're on this shared hosting plan," and they tried to upsell him to this this more expensive dedicating host, which they would make they would actually get money from because they were like a reseller of it. And there's all sorts of dodgy things go on when people try and promote hosting that you don't need. So just be very careful with going overboard on it, because often you don't really need to.
Actually, site optimization is often more important than the hosting itself. Like, unless you really have a lot of traffic or you have a very dynamic site, you don't need that much processing power if you cache your pages. Okay, I have another one actually, which is we're actually gonna we're giving a shout out to like pretty much all the online marketing people in this one, but it's fine. It's actually for niche pursuits. Spencer just started his podcast again, so if you need more podcasts, go check his out. I enjoy it because there's a lot of like case studies and so on. He interviews some people as well. Interviews, I'm not always a fan, but the case study stuff and the like actual practical stuff, I quite enjoyed. And Spencer is really good at that, obviously. And so the one he's doing right now is actually he kind of has like a DIY site. He has an email list of 22,000 people, and he's trying to revive it and essentially monetize the email list. And his goal was making $2,000 to $3,000 per month after 90 days. I think he's like 45 days in, and he's made $11, which is, I'm not doing this to say it's bad or anything like that, but rather to highlight the challenges of this. So basically, because it's a DIY site, he was trying to promote coupon sites. Like, some coupon sites pay you per click, pay you per visit, and then a little bit of a referral if people buy something. But it hasn't worked very well. So I'm quite curious to see whether he's gonna succeed. I sent him a few messages to give him some tips actually on this. But his open rate was like 2%, etc. It was pretty terrible. But still, I'm pretty sure he's gonna make something out of it and learn something out of it at least. And he's trying to optimize his open rate. He's working on Google Postmasters, and I told him to try to promote high-paying offers actually, because promote stuff like CPC stuff that pays like 5 cents per click or something. You're not gonna make that much money, but actually, if I was him, even like coupon sites, etc., stay-at-home moms that are blocked at home because of the lockdown, etc., there is like make money blogging is one of the things he should be promoting, to be honest. And start a blog, buy Bluehost or whatever, the moms, or SiteGround or whatever. You want to promote to the moms and like make $100, $200 per sale. If he makes 1 or 2 sales per email, then already he can be at $200 per email or something like this. So I'm quite curious to see what's going to happen. But for once, it's a bit of a different case study. It's not another affiliate site. And I'm curious to see how he's going to do it. It's not that easy. We've done it in some niches. Some niches made money, some niches not the best. But overall, it's nice when it works. You can at some point in house, we're making good money from email. Actually, we're making thousands of dollars per month, and it worked really well. So I'm curious to see what he takes.
I love the title of the article as well. How to make $11.15 from 1,900 email subscribers. Facepalm, receiving an email list case study update. It's really good to see people sharing more like things that don't work, because you can learn as much from what doesn't work as from what does work. And it's obviously not like super impressive or anything, at least at the moment. But yeah, lots of takeaways there for sure. So yeah,
Spencer's very honest with his case studies. That's what makes it interesting, actually. So yeah, check it out. If you want more content, then go check him out. And you can take the next one.
So the next one is just a cool website, which I think Gail found a few months ago. But I wanted to share a couple of interesting things I read on there. It's called marketingexamples.com. Really like clean, nice UI site. So there's a couple of really cool micro case studies on that site. There's actually loads of really cool ones, but 2 I wanted to single out in particular. One of them was a guy who was using Unsplash for link building. So he took a bunch of photos of, I think it was him kayaking or something like that, and just put them on Unsplash. Unsplash, if you don't know, is a free website which you can go and get royalty-free images. You can use them on your site. And there's no obligation to actually link back or credit them when you use them. So what he did, he knew that. So he then took those images a little bit later on. And if you go to Google Images, you can kind of upload any photo that you have to Google Images. And it will find similar images or the exact same image being used around the web. This is called a reverse image search. So he put his own images through reverse image search, found a bunch of websites which were using them, and then outreached saying, hey, I love that you're using my image, and just politely asked for photo credit. It wasn't a demand. It wasn't like a, oh my God, you're using my image, link to me or else, because Unsplash, you don't actually have to. It was more just a polite request and being nice about it. And quite a lot of people actually did link to him. So interesting link building tactic there. I feel like that's something that could be replicated in virtually any niche if you have a decent camera and can take like a half decent photo, because sites are always looking for good images, and it's often pretty difficult to find them. So that's one. And another one is a tactic for doing kind of press releases. I'm going to link to this. It's marketingexamples.com/SEO/press. But basically, they break down exactly how they create a unique pitch on a topic, and how they pitch that to journalists, and they sort of pull apart the exact pitch. That, you know, like there's a lot of nuance in this. So the subject line of the email is the headline that the journalist can actually use. They write the hook for the journalist. They have a bullet point list of facts, a bunch of other stuff in there. I'd encourage you guys to go check out that as well. And there's a bunch of other cool examples on this website that you can learn from. They have an email.
It's really creative. It's not the usual SEO stuff you read. This guy is not writing for SEO. Like, his articles will not rank. Even the way the site is built, it's not built to rank. It's just built to engage. And also their Twitter account is very active, and he makes these like big tweet storms with like a lot of cool infos and examples as well. So go check it out. It's very good. It's actually the only Twitter account where I have notification when they tweet, because they don't tweet a lot, but they tweet like actual content, you know, and it's really good. So yeah, if you want some creative SEO stuff that's not the same stuff that you've been reading on the other blogs, then it's a good place to go. It's well written. It's really fast as well. These are short blog posts. You don't need to spend hours reading, and it's not made for SEO basically, which is great. Check it out. My favorite marketing blog at the moment, I would say. So yeah, I think that's it for this site. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, and you can pick the last point as well, actually, because you worked on it.
So the final thing I wanted to say is that if you are a member of either Authority Hacker Pro or the Authority Site System, then we are releasing a new thing. It's called Member of the Month, basically. So,
yeah, you sell it well.
Yeah. I should be a marketer, you know. So what this
should work at Ahrefs.
What this is a way for us to encourage people to be active and give really good advice. And there's some people who have spent a lot of time crafting almost like blog posts within the community, sharing those, telling us what's working and stuff on their site. So we made this cool thing, Member of the Month, and I'm pleased to announce this is a big one. We have prizes. So those are actually on the way out. I actually was supposed to have one in front of me so I could hold it up if that's some kind of a clue. This is some new Authority Hacker swag. It's not t-shirt.
Boxing gloves, obviously.
But I can't say anything. I'm sorry. But I don't seem to have it in front of my desk. Maybe my wife cleared it away. I'm not sure. That kind of ruined this.
Sorry for the members next month.
Ruined this part of the segment. But keep an eye out in the Facebook groups for maybe some people will post those, and we'll be announcing new ones for September at the end of the month.
Yeah, we have a lot of a lot of the stuff we talk about even in these podcasts is also inspired by what people talk about on the Facebook group, and they share their stuff. And you know, these people are not marketers or anything. They're just people who run their site and like share the experience and so on. And we wanted to give them some recognition. And so yeah, we decided to try to share the spotlight with these people once a month and try to highlight them in the community because they make they are the ones who make the community great. Like we work on it, but it's like without them it wouldn't happen. So thank you for all the HPro members that share their stuff, and that's how you sell it, by the way. Anyway, we're gonna wrap things up here. I didn't say it at the beginning, so if you are on the audio platforms and you enjoy the audio podcast, well, we hope to see you next week. If you actually want to see, now we start to add like content, video content on top of this, like not just our faces, but actual like screenshots and stuff that we talk about, so that we can like kind of enrich that stuff. So if you are listening to the audio now and you want to see that, check it out on YouTube. So search for Authority Hacker, subscribe there, and drop us a thumb up if you like the episode as well. It helps us reach more people. YouTube's been doing really well for us lately, so thank you everyone for tuning in. On every Monday as well, when we release the episode, we are on the chat, on the premiere with people. We answer their questions. We also have a lot of banter on there, so I have a lot of fun on the chat, I'm not gonna lie. And you should definitely join, because it's a cool way to hang out and also meet some of these, Age Pro and test members that, we mentioned, etc. So please come and check it out. Anything else you want to say now?
I forgot one thing. So 3 weeks ago, you introduced this new section on...
Oh yeah, I forgot. The question.
The question of the week. So...
Yeah, and the question of the week, actually I thought about it. The question of the week is, did we forget any news? If we did, drop it in the comments so that everyone can actually participate in actually know about the stuff that we forgot. And if we like it, we might cover it next month if it's still relevant. So drop us your news in the comments and tell us what was important for you this month. On this, I'm going to leave you, and Mark's going to leave you too, and we'll see you next week for another episode. Bye.
So they know what they are doing. But what?
Nothing. We have the end of the episode now. Okay.
Why are you laughing?
Just I was thinking like they know what they're doing more than you know how to speak. That's why. Nothing. Never mind.